And we welcome you back to Wash High Stadium here in Washington, Pennsylvania for our Pittsburgh Sports Report post-game show brought to you by the Pittsburgh Sports Report, Pittsburgh's premier sports publication. Why don't you do what I did and pick up your copy today, because we carry one with us because Ellis Cannon is here.
Absolutely.
We have to have that. Anyway, speaking of Ellis Cannon, we're going to get to Ellis in just a little bit. It was Clairton all night long, other than that first possession of the ball game when we saw an exchange of punts and we thought it was going to be a defensive game. All of a sudden, it just exploded. It was all Clairton.
Well, it was a defensive game for Clairton because they shut them down completely. No first downs for Wash High tonight, and that's disappointing for them, obviously.
Let's get Ellis on camera with us right now with Coach Nola. Ellis?
Thanks a lot, guys. Coach, it was 34-0 at half. It ended 41-0, but really very little went wrong tonight. Congratulations on the big win.
Thank you very much. In the second half, I was a little disappointed with our 3 fumbles and, a couple other things. But all in all, you can't argue too much with 41-0.
Yeah, particularly when you consider last year's season opener. I know it was a year ago, different team and so forth, but as we talked about at halftime, you use that as a bit of a reminder, perhaps even a motivator this offseason. Looks like it worked.
We do. We used that all last year, all 15 games after the first one. We used it all camp, and we told them they better be focused and ready to play, not like they came out last year. So it's still, we're still using it as a good psychological tool to
Coach, this is a state championship team, so obviously you know how to win and run the table as you did last season. On the other hand, any concerns winning so big so early? Is that going to be part of your message this week to make sure the guys keep their heads on the ground as opposed up in the air?
It's always good to win anytime, big, little, it doesn't matter. We'll always try to keep our heads and look forward to the next opponent, Western Beaver.
And that experience that we talked about early in tonight's game, definitely something they'll be relying on going forward. How we get it back upstairs to Chris and John.
I knew Coach Nola, the first thing out of his mouth would be those fumbles. I'm telling you, no matter what, a 41-0 win, and you kind of knew that was going to egg him on.
Well, and he talked about one of the things that his team needed. Yeah, they've got good players. They needed leadership. Well, they got plenty of leadership from Green and company, and everybody stepped up. I'd like to go to some of their practices and see who handles the ball all the time, or maybe you just give each guy his own football when he's practicing.
That could be. He said there's only one ball in the football game, so you got to keep everybody happy. And perhaps the happiest guy is Desmond Green, the quarterback who played great on all sides of the ball here tonight. He's with Ellis right now. Let's go back down to the field.
Desmond, congratulations. You're the Pittsburgh Sports Report player of the game, and so deservingly so, if I might say. Let me ask you, you obviously play both sides of it. The offense having nearly 400 yards late in the game. You look at the defensive end, I don't think Washington got positive. What was actually more satisfying from your perspective?
Defense. Defense, that wins games, you know what I mean? So we got to stop them first. And it was just fun. And plus, they're a double-A team, so this is a big statement.
I was about to say that. You take the step up and you come out on the road. You guys had a presence from the moment I saw you in the pre-game stretch. I mean, you definitely came out with that attitude.
I mean, it's just like a certain, not cocky, just confident. You know what I mean? We're a confident team, so that just showed.
It helps if you're a state champion, though.
Yes, you know what I mean? But on top, everybody want to knock you down, so you just got to do your thing.
That certainly allows you to remain more focused. As a senior, talk about how satisfying it was to come out and basically pick up where you left off.
It's real satisfying because last year we got upset in week on 1, so that was our motivation the whole week and the whole year, so we just had to knock this off first.
Desmond, one of the things that jumped out at me all night long was the speed. I mean, coming into the game, that was a storyline we had talked about, the Clairton speed, and it was there all night long. It made Washington, frankly, look slow at times.
Yeah, I mean, we got 30 people, they got 60, you know what I mean? We might not be 300 pounds, but we're just fast, you know what I mean? We're undersized, but we just get to the ball.
Your focus has to remain on the prize, though. You have Western Beaver coming up.
Next.
I mean, this is one of those things I suspect you're satisfied with for 24 hours or so, then you got to look ahead.
We're not done. I mean, our main goal is Whitfield's the state, so we're not done.
Enjoyed watching tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Desmond Green, thank you very much for joining us as a Pittsburgh Sports Report player of the game. Let's get back upstairs to Chris and John.
And as you said, Ellis, deservedly so. John, I like this young man.
I do too. What's not to like? We saw him on both sides of the football. He can chase the quarterback, and if he's the quarterback, he chases the defenses. So he had quite a night.
Obviously, the Pitt Panthers are going to love him next year. I don't think there's any question about that. Well, you know, it was a tremendous outing for Clairton tonight. Once they got out after it after that first possession, yeah, they got a little bit sloppy in the third quarter, and Coach Nolan mentioned the fumbles, and you know, they mishandled the football just a little bit, but those were very, very slight, minor mistakes for them.
Well, they had good field position throughout the ball game. They scored on 5 consecutive possessions, but most of those possessions were from the 50-yard line in on the Washington side of the field. And when you get those situations like that, you have to take advantage of them, and Clairton did it almost every time tonight.
One more time to the sidelines. Ellis Cannon, your final thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with John entirely. Really, Clairton trucked them tonight. There's no other way to put it. In the pregame, we discussed the idea of the experience and the pressure. And I know that John had mentioned early on that Clairton is where other people want to be, regardless of classification. Well, obviously, while there was a big step forward last year for Washington, it didn't carry over, and Coach Bostic will have to take care of that immediately. You take a look at Clairton. They responded very well to being on the road, having the bullseye, having the expectations and the pressure, and ultimately they just never allowed Washington the chance to build off of what this environment was like for the opening night. Washington was off the rails all night. Clairton kept them that way, and that's how you get to 41-0.
Ellis, thank you. John, always great to be with you here in the booth, and we'll do it again next week.
Let's do it.
Okay, that will conclude our postgame show brought to you by the Pittsburgh Sports Report and our game here on Comcast tonight, the Papa John's Pizza Comcast High School Football Game of the Week, presented by the Lincoln Park Performing Arts Charter School. With John Sanders, Ellis Cannon, and our entire Comcast crew, I'm Chris Shovlin. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight on Comcast. Again, the final score, the Clairton Bears 41 and the Wash-High Little Prexies 0.